Bullying in school, children being put in a position that makes it difficult to defend themselves, accountability, the way things are handled now compared to how they were handled back in the day when I was in school. Have things changed for the better, the worse, or have they just changed and no big deal? We're going to get into a little bit of that. But I wanted to talk to you first about which is the best way to handle things and what's the best way for us to advise our children on how to defend themselves in the event of bullying in places like school or out in public or wherever. Now, I'm going to get into this a little bit because this is a personal topic for me as a mother who has lost a child and know the agony and heartbreak of that. Seeing the young lady that passed away and collapsed after a fight in Douglasville hits home because I'm in Douglasville a lot. Douglasville is like really close to me and close knit to the heart. So I wanted to talk about it briefly, and I want to have ultimate respect of and for the mother, the father, the parents of the young lady that is no longer here with us. Everything I say is strictly for entertainment purposes only. Make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. So, we are going to get right into this conversation. Okay, I'm sure if you're a part of social media, and even if you're not a part of social media, you have friends that are family that are, they probably talked about the young lady, rest in heaven, sweet baby, Jada West. She's the young lady that was 12 years old in middle school in Douglasville. And when she got off of the school bus, her and a young lady had been having words on the bus. She got off of the bus and they were both kind of going back and forth. And they walked toward each other and a fight ensued. And she collapsed shortly after. I actually saw the entire, well, I won't say the entire fight, but I saw what was privy to being online, right? And I know how it feels as a parent. And respectfully, I was on the fence about talking about this. And the reason is because the heartbreak that a parent is a mother and a father, but it's something about a mother. The heartbreak that we feel when we have lost a child, it's out of order. It's not something that we're prepared for. It's not like something that God kind of makes us strong to just deal with. No one wants to lose anyone in their family. But in particularly when you lose a child, that hits the gut. That's something different. Child, grandchild, any of that. We don't want to do. It just seems out of order. When things are out of order, it's never easy to deal with, right? I want to talk about the young lady Jada, rest in heaven, and the situation that happened. I'm not going to go in detail because I would like to really, really have a live conversation about this. I have other mothers on. If you've lost a child, if you haven't lost a child, if you just feel compassionate about the subject, I would basically like to talk to some parents that have an opinion about this situation in respect of Jada's mother. The deal was, from what I could see, the young ladies must have been having words on the bus, got off the bus, still having words. And I'm just recapping it. And they were both kind of going back and forth. And they walked toward each other and a fight ensued. It was a very brief fight. It wasn't like no head banging on the ground. It wasn't nothing like a cray fight. Like we straight from the hood and we finna get it in. And we ain't doing all that. It was just a basic fight between two young girls. That's what I saw. So when I heard that the young lady collapsed, the first thing I thought, I'm like, Lord, what was wrong? Did she have something there that no one knew about it? Did she have an issue that was stimulated because of the fight? What happened to cause this young lady to lose her life? Because she looked perfectly healthy. But what I will say that I've heard of, and my family have had experiences with young adults because they're out in the officiating world, and young adults who've actually collapsed on the floor, healthy, playing basketball, warming up, and the next thing they collapse and then they pass away. I have seen that happen. I have a dear friend that it happened to her son, and we end up losing the mother because of the stress that happened, because of what happened to her son. So it is very difficult. And some people, when it comes to stress, they react and their bodies um react differently than some other people, right? So when I saw the arguing back and forth and in the recorded videos, because these kids record everything, I was like, oh Lord, they both was at it, rah rah. They both were. I mean, I gotta see it like I seen it. And they got the banging. Okay. Fight broke up. I heard a mother there. I guess it was a mother, but it was an adult trying to break it up, sending everybody home. Well, this is the gist of what I want to talk about. In my opinion, and we'll talk about this further, right? When I get together and do the interview with some other mothers. I feel like the two young girls were fighting. I understood from what I've been hearing that there was a lot of bullying going on. Let me tell you, as a mother, one of the things I have always been afraid of, like when I moved here from out of town, where I'm in Georgia now, but when I moved here from the state I resided, I had at the time I had three children. One of them wasn't in school yet, and then I had my daughter that was in middle school, as a matter of fact, and then I had my son that was just in high school, right? And one thing I hated, because the school that we came from started at a different time than the school here in Georgia at the time. So my son went to school, went on, did good. My daughter went to school. Guess what? They were picking at her, they bullying her, and she came home. I had purchased her a purse, and I remember saying, "Where's your purse I brought you?" She told me they took it from her at school. I said, "Excuse me." They did what? Run that back, run that again. They took it from me. I said, "Okay, this is how this gonna roll. You better bring that purse back tomorrow, or it's gonna be me, you and I." But I ain't say you and I wasn't grammatically correct. I was like, me and you. Okay. So next day she brought that purse back home. She got her purse because I ended up contacting the school. And they got her purse back. They had cut it and did some little crazy things with it. And they didn't even know my daughter. My daughter, that's my oldest daughter. And I miss her so much because I end up losing her myself to domestic violence. And I miss her every single day. Her birthday was yesterday. And 26 is always a difficult time for me. And so I understand the heart and heaviness of Jada's mother. Okay. But when my daughter went back to school, because she was new at school, they felt it was going, and they had taken her purse, saying all kind of things. My daughter was like a peacemaker. She wasn't a child that was going to be fighting and carrying on like that. But after I gave her that ultimatum, when I tell you she got there, it was on and popping. She tore up some ashes. Some ashes did she tear up? Yes, ma'am. And guess what happened? No more problems. But because she was new at the school, and this is what I think I heard regarding this young lady Jada, she was new at the school. They were bullying her. That situation that day probably just kind of was the day she was tired and fed up, and she was like, I'm tired of y'all, and she wanted to defend herself. Because from what I heard, kind of through the grapevine on social media, I wasn't there, but what I heard was that they had been bullying her at school. She was new to the area, and they was bullying her, so she just probably got tired that day. She was just fed up. But this is my problem, because everybody gonna get fed up. And I've often told the school systems when it comes to my children, I don't send my children to school to misbehave. I don't send my kids to school to act up. I don't send my kids to school to give those teachers a hard time. I send them to school to be respectful, polite, and do what they have to do. Okay, make friends, do what those teachers tell them to. That is their job. That's their only job. They don't have but one, and that is their job at this point in their life, right? So, so I always tell them, I got your back if you're doing what you're supposed to do, but you're not acting like a fool. Then I'm acting like a fool when you get home. Because there's always two sides to every story. You have your child at home and you have your child at school. I know, because I worked in the school system for a period of time. Could not be bothered with them people, okay? Wasn't my thing, wasn't the way I was moving and grooving. Oh, don't get me talking about that. Because them little kids in school, they be like, parents come in and be like, not my baby. My baby don't do. Why you doing this to my baby? And why you doing that to my baby? And your baby in school acting like a plum fool. And teachers' hands are tied. See, back in the day when I was in school, they would paddle you. Teachers wouldn't lose their job for tightening up your behind if necessary, right? They would straighten you up. Now I don't agree with that now because people crazy and they don't know how to discipline people, kids, and everybody discipline differently. So all that neighbors raising children and stuff, all that's going through the window because neighbors not cray cray. They been crazy, but they real cray cray now with all this stuff people be taking and stuff. So people can't be disciplining your children. You understand what I'm saying? But this is what I'm saying. It used to be if you got in a fight in school, whoever initiated the fight through the first lit or whatever is the person that's going to be disciplined. Like if you're a person that's being bullied and someone hit you and you tear them up, that person getting in trouble. But the way they do it now in school is that they make it where children are afraid to defend themselves. And then you have situations like this that blow up and then parents mad or you have an unfortunate situation. So my thing is, I feel like it's a problem with the school systems and how they put so much pressure on children. Because my biggest thing, they want to tell children like, and I know and I get it's for control. I get all of that. You can't have people just around there acting up, fighting and acting crazy in school. I get it. I get it. I get it. You also cannot make it where children are afraid to defend themselves. Because let me tell you something about a bully. If you got a person that's a bully, they want to eat your lunch, they want to take your lunch money, they want you go to the bathroom, then all of a sudden they go into the bathroom if they see you, they want to try to jack you up in the bathroom. I ain't doing that. And I ain't no big woman. I'm an average woman. But you know what? You put your hands on me, we got something going. I ain't saying I'm gonna beat you. I ain't gonna say you're gonna beat me, but we gonna ride it out. Because that's the thing. We gonna deal with the consequences when the consequences come up. But nobody's gonna sit back and allow nobody to just put their hands on them and don't defend themselves. And I think that's the problem with the school system. All this stuff, you making it where children are afraid to defend themselves because they are afraid of the consequences from the school, getting expelled, getting in major trouble. And then a lot of times they may tell the teacher. I always instruct my children and my grandchildren, let the teacher know what's going on. Build a case for yourself. Let me know so I can document it. I can reach out. So if they don't get a handle on them children that's bothering you and you defend yourself, I got your back, baby. You've done and took the steps that you need to take to make sure things in place. So my biggest thing is from what I gather and from what I've been hearing from the mom and the people talking is that this young lady, Jada, she was tired of the bullying and she just went off. I, in my opinion, don't see how that little girl should be held accountable for that. Now, they always say the bus stop and the bus is an extension of school. I've heard that before. In this case, they're saying, the bus driver shouldn't have let them off the bus with all that going on. But to be honest, them bus drivers be ready to get them half of the time, the rude kids off the bus. Not saying these kids were rude, but they be ready to get them kids on and go on to the next stop, right? She maybe could have used a little more discretion, but I feel like accountability need to be if things were reported and the discipline was not impactful, where parents were called, things were done to settle this down in school, then that's where the responsibility lies. It doesn't lie with the little girl she fought. Because if people were bullying the young lady in school, and now the young lady and this other young lady get into it, she can't be held accountable for all the bullying that had been done. That's just not fair. That's not fair. But what can happen is the school system for not handling the situation, now you got another conversation. I personally think the school system need to revisit the discipline approach they have with stuff like that, because nobody is going to allow anyone to just put their hands on them and not defend themselves. I know my kids not. And I told them, I better not hear about you coming and letting nobody just putting their hands on you. You better stand up for yourself. You know what? And I've told principals this because guess what? My child or grandchild is not going to be a child forever. They're going to be the woman of their house. They're going to be the man of their house. And you know what? You're teaching them it's okay to allow people to just walk all over you. So no. I feel like the young lady that she got into it with, from what I seen, it wasn't no bamming heads on the ground, but sometimes in fights, that happen too. If we both engaging, we both fight, it's self-defense from both ends. I'm not gonna sit there and let you beat me up. I'm sure the young lady that she got into the altercation with didn't think she was gonna pass because she looked like she was walking away initially, and then they kept talking, and she came back, and then they squared up, right? And it wasn't even that fight couldn't have been no more than 25 to 30 seconds long before it was over. So I don't know. I didn't haven't read any autopsy or anything on the young lady. I am so sorry this happened to the mom, and we're going to talk about it a little more in detail. But I want your comments on this. Make sure you like and subscribe to this channel. This is like a real life situation. It happens. I mean, they literally put kids out of school because of self defense. Somebody is bothering them. I even had it with my grandson, where he got put out of school, a school out in Woodstock, because he handled his business. And you know what? I got you. Because the child said something about my daughter, his mom, and he had lost his mother. And the young man knew that. And he was being inconsiderate, not kind. And so he got dealt with. And then the first thing they want to do is put our boys or our girls in jail or something like that. When if the situation was turned around and it was thrown at them, they would handle it the same way, if not worse. So yeah, I feel like there needs to be some type of reevaluation of the disciplinary approach in schools and go back to the way where they say, hey, whoever started the fight is the one who's gonna pay, have consequence. Because you cannot have children out here afraid to defend themselves because they're afraid of the discipline at home and the discipline at school. I am never going to be upset with my children for defending themselves. No, no, because I'm gonna do the same thing. So how I'm gonna tell you to be around here to be somebody punching bag. And if you do it and you don't stop it, it's gonna continue. And not only is it gonna continue in childhood, it's gonna manifest itself through your adulthood, and you're not gonna be able to handle conflict. Some people say, well, you gotta be able to use your words, not your fists. Well, if somebody hit me, I ain't saying be going to put your hands on folks and just fight. I'm definitely not saying none of that because we all prefer to handle stuff respectfully and no fighting, no bullying, and none of that. But if a situation happens like this unfortunate situation, I don't know. We got to see how this gonna fall out in court. I don't know if it's the two girls. I feel like the discipline should have came through the schools. The parents should have stepped in and made sure that something was being done. There's just a very broad spectrum. So I'm curious to see how this is gonna fare out. Make sure you like and subscribe to my channel and share it. Let me know your opinions. Let me know what you think. It's so unfortunate because like I said, one thing that a mother never wants to do is bury their child. It's a very difficult thing. And no one could have told me that today I would be where I'm at. Because there are times and have been times where I felt like I was walking in a world and it was like I had earphones on, like I could just see things moving around me, but I was just there. Like I was so out of body, out of sorts. So something like this, man, it impacts your heart in a whole nother way. So I feel so bad for the young lady's mother. I feel so bad for the young lady that she got into it with because I'm sure she did not. I would bet a lot of money she did not expect this was going to happen. She thought it was just going to be a fight. Probably they're going to go to school tomorrow and be talking about it, and whatever. Never this, never this. And when I saw the young lady, I never would have expected this either. So make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. Leave a comment. I'm curious to see what you all think. If you think you would love to be a part of the interview and conversation, that would be awesome. I can, see what I can work out whenever I get ready to move on with this conversation. Because I'm interested to see how people feel about it. Okay. All right, y'all. Just want to kind of talk about it for a quick minute. Unfortunate situation. Sending prayers up for the mother, grandmother, parents, and family, and rest in heaven.